Hey everyone, welcome to Teach Better Today morning show, where we are live every single morning to welcome you into your morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. I was actually just talking about this show to my physical therapist, like literally yesterday, and they were so surprised that we were live every single day. And I'm like, yeah, we just like to hang out with our community. So we'll be back here in a minute. If this is your first show or your 3000th show, please add your name in the comments. Tell us where you're listening from. I know you're shocked to see Jeff Gargas on the show. You can tell him specifically a hello, howdy do, and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, my name is Rae Hughart. I'm live with Jeff Gargas, and you are tuning in to Teach Better Today, either streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, or LinkedIn, or you are listening over on Teach Better Talk podcast, which we really, really appreciate you guys subscribing, rating, and reviewing there, and all that good stuff. Hi, Jeff.
Is it? Have we done 3,000 episodes?
I assume
Or are you
we
just
have.
talking nonsense?
I wish that podcasts numbered things for you, because we've been putting out episodes since 2018, and we used to number them.
Yeah, because we had the episode number, but but our host doesn't like.
Yeah, but we also did bonus episodes that we didn't.
I know. I was gonna say because we did a whole lot more than the numbers. We did a lot of bonus. We used to do a lot of there's bonus episodes that were like replay of keynotes, that were blogs that we were reading, that were special events. We've done I'm gonna put a complaint in.
Then we've only gone up in our podcast. We published so many podcast episodes a week. Plus, then we did daily drop-in every day. We did shows every day. I mean, it's honestly endless. And you guys not only get the Teach Better Today morning show on the podcast, but you also get the mastermind recap on the podcast, and you get the Sunday show. So we put out 7 or 8 podcast episodes a week.
It's seven a week.
Yeah. So I don't. That's what I'm saying.
7 a week that's been going here for but if you think about when we did daily drop, and it was 5 a week. Right.
And we did bonus episodes during daily.
We did some bonus, and the last year it was we did 2 a week plus bonus is probably an average of 3 or so a week. But
we also take summers off a lot, so it's a lose-lose. I have no idea. I don't know why they don't count it for us.
I'm gonna figure this out and add up how many we've actually. Yeah, I can figure it out.
Guys, do you think that Jeff should be spending his time adding up podcast episodes?
Oh, it's not a matter of what I should be doing. It's a matter of what I'm going to be doing.
I feel like there's other things on your to-do list. I don't know. But yeah, that's a really good Saturday or Sunday project for you.
Yeah, but regardless, we're happy you're here, regardless of what number this is or how many times you joined us.
So happy.
Excited, yes.
Hey, Jeff, I legitimately, before we started the show, have you ever had, I know teachers have had this, so we have to talk about it, and then it's going to transition into what I wanted to actually ask you. But have you ever had the moment where either you've had too much coffee or you've just been really busy all morning, and all of a sudden your body gets really jittery, you need food, but then in that moment you're already in the losing space. You have to essentially shovel in food to try and get the jittering to stop. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So I do know what you're talking about. I think you're about to tell us how you just experienced that.
Well, not only did I just experience it, but the topic that we were supposed to talk about today was if it's acceptable to eat during a meeting. And I feel like this just blends in perfectly. I looked at the show notes.
Should I go get, are we going to eat right now? Are we going to eat for this?
Oh, I won't even joke. I have,
because you were like, hey, I need to get some lunch. And I'm like, oh, I should do that. And I'm like, oh, well, that's not good, because I'm an hour ahead of you.
And you should have eaten.
I also, I've been doing, I've been fasting again in the morning. So I haven't eaten. I downed a granola bar really quick just before.
Here's my question.
I'm not as jittery.
I'm acknowledging it's rude to talk with food in your mouth like I am right now. So I understand that. But if you're in a school meeting or if you're in a Zoom meeting, whatever it is, and let's assume that you have to have a participatory role. Like this isn't like a meeting with 6,000 people on a Zoom and your camera's off and your mic's off. Like then you can technically do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're in a meeting with a group that is of decent size, that you matter. They want to hear, can you eat in a meeting? That's my question.
I think it depends on the group.
More.
Well, I can't believe we're recording this. Well, like for example, if you think about like our weekly leadership team meeting, yes, 100% eat. Like because
it's
we're
like an internal meeting.
well, but even if it's someone else like that's not technically internal, but you have a relationship with or the connection to, you know what I mean? Like I think that's the side. Like if I'm on a if I don't think probably as if you are looked at as a leader that you if you're the person leading the conversation or called the meeting, you probably don't need to be the one eating or shouldn't be. But I think if someone needs to eat, I mean, especially if you think about teachers, like
well, that's what I'm thinking. So like
they get like 38 seconds a day to eat. So like if we're in a meeting, like
is it okay to eat during like a team meeting at school or a grade level meeting?
I think so.
Staff meeting, but then maybe not you're saying like a parent meeting may
not a parent teacher conference, probably not. I don't know if I recognize that meeting with the board or with the community really in any sense.
And
I think the internal though, like it depends on what the topics are. Like, if you're meeting on if there's a emergency meeting called and it's like something happened and it's a serious topic, and you need to cover like there's a little bit of a respect to the topic of like, okay, you have my full attention, I'm here. But I think if it's just general like, the monthly meeting or the team, morning meetings for the team or whatever, like I think you should have the relationship and the culture there where it's like, look, I'm eating, but as long as I can still participate and bring the value that I'm expected to bring or that I want to bring, and I'm still hearing what everyone else is saying, it's not like distracting for me or anybody else, then I don't think there's an issue. I mean, especially if you think about like a Zoom, like I can mute and take a bite, whatever. I don't have to chew in your mouth like Ray's been doing here, like in your ear. But even like you're sitting in a meeting and I'm having a, granola bar, I'm having to eat or whatever. Like, I think if you have the relationship, like you understand why that person might be eating.
Okay. I want to hear in the comments.
Get a chance to eat.
We are getting comments. I want to keep these comments going about what you guys think. I think it also it's also about the food you are choosing to eat. Like if you have like a messy red spaghetti sauce and you're just like,
if you've got a rack of ribs, maybe save it for after the meeting. Like
a rack of ribs. I feel like if it's a granola bar or like,
I picture me coming in and I got like a rack of ribs on my lap and I'm like setting like my, my side, like my potatoes on someone else's lap. And I'm like folding the napkin in and I'm like, and you're trying to talk and I'm just chowing on a bone of rib meat. That's probably not okay.
So what's an okay? Like, I feel like salads could go either way. Be careful with salads. Granola bars, any like snacking food.
See, this is why I think most people just say don't eat during meetings, because like you get into nuances like, well, wait a minute, where's the line? Because someone crosses the line there and you're like, wait a minute, that you should be doing. Like, well, you said we could eat and I'm hungry, I don't get to eat. And it's like, yeah, but we didn't tell you to bring an entire rotisserie chicken. So like, and like,
but again, I think rotisserie
chicken of wings.
A rotisserie chicken goes into distracting. Cutting up a rotisserie chicken is its own activity. So
you don't cut that thing up. You just pick it up and eat it.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think that's different than like I got a granola bar in my hand, or even like a little bowl of like oatmeal, or even a salad again. Like
oatmeal's great. Mm-hmm.
But I think the difficulty becomes in like, because like where's the line, and you'd have someone that's going to push it or whatever. I don't know. I think
what
if it becomes an issue is when it becomes an issue, not before it's an issue. That makes sense.
Okay, so I was gonna say anything crunchy, but these are granola bar. Wait, no, what's this?
Those are not granola bar. That's
what is this? A graham cracker?
A graham cracker.
Graham cracker. But it was not properly stored by, I assume, a child. So it's really stale. So it's not gonna make a noise when I chew it because it's like super stale and soft. Like, you know what I mean? Like if it was fresh, it'd be like,
okay. But even that, like, even if it's not like when you're like, I mean, you can eat something that's crunchy like that without being ridiculous. It's not like when you
Being
eat
obnoxious.
a graham cracker, it's like, like
All right. During this transition, friends, we want to hear what your favorite and least favorite food you would recommend for a team meet. Like, I really liked the rib example. You might win for that one, Jeff. Like, I want to know the worst thing to bring and then the best thing to bring, and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, welcome back to Teach Better Today morning show. We are getting into our team talk section, which is where we like to bring up educational topics, get into conversation, and today we are doing a listener question. Jeff Gargas, tell me your thoughts before we get into this. Tell me your thoughts on listener questions.
Oh, I like the listener questions are fun because it gets an idea. I think, when we put together the ideas for these shows, like I think we do a pretty good job of listening to our audience, listening to you, those who are connected in our community. But there is a little bit of like us assuming or guessing maybe is right, or thinking through like, here's what we think will be valuable. When we get a user question or suggestion or idea, it's like, okay, no, we know like at least someone literally is asking for this, so likely it's going to be valuable to more people. And so I like it. I think as you send us questions and you share stuff like that, it really helps us be better for you every time we come on. So I love them. Unless this is a difficult one that you're going to make me answer, then I hate them.
Yeah, I won't lie to you. So we sent out an email, I don't know how many weeks ago, and we asked people to just share listener questions with us, and we got so many. So I am so excited that we could do listener questions more often, because while I appreciate you guys sending them randomly to us, we have like a whole batch now that I know I want to get to.
Which by the way, like shout out to you, like like the community stepped up.
I know, it was huge.
Like way to show up.
I also am trying to answer some of them on my Instagram because I knew that like these shows can only answer so many listener questions at a time. And also sometimes I'm not on the show when they pull a specific listener question I wish I could answer. So I feel like there's going to be so much rich conversation coming from the Teach Better team, because we're constantly going to be problem solving through things that you all are hopefully thinking through. And of course, if you get more questions, please send them. Like, even if you hear a question that your mentee asks you and you're like, okay, I got the answer I needed, but this is going to benefit someone else, I'll send this question to the team. Be super helpful. So I really like this one, Jeff, but there are a lot of layers, which is why I thought it was perfect for you and I to do on the morning show.
Okay. All right.
Are you ready? It's a little long. I'm going to read it.
Not ready, but go ahead.
Okay. So this is the scenario that is typed out to us. It says, right now I'm on medical leave, so I'm not using the grid method. However, I've written and taught through several different grids. Before I left for leave, my teacher friend who gets my freshmen as sophomores got exacerbated. What is that word? Exacerbated? There we go. With them, and said, if you guys don't start working, I'm going to throw a grid at you. I was horrified and begged her not to use the grid as a threat anymore. So my question is, what if you are trying to teach an instructional method with fidelity, but another colleague is butchering it and hurting students with it, essentially? So there are a lot of layers.
This person is freshman. It's the colleague is the sophomore level.
No, other way around. The colleague is the freshman.
Other way around. Okay.
She's the sophomore teacher. So her concern is like, if the freshman teacher isn't using the strategy well and using it now as a negative, as a threat, then when they get to their sophomore year and this teacher is implementing it really well,
they're gonna feel like the whole class is a threat. Yeah.
Can I mention one thing before we get into this question? And it's not her question. It's just something she shared in the beginning. She specifically says, right now I'm on medical leave, so I'm not using the grid method. First off, we want to send you all of our love for you being on medical leave. We know that so many teachers have been forced to take these routes, and whether it be their own emotional, physical health, family members, please know that if you ever need anything, reach out to us. We have so many different resources to get you support. So we're sending you all the love in easy healing. And then the second thing I want to mention is for those of you that are possibly taking a leave, whether it be for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, a semester, the grid method, depending on what you're willing to challenge yourself with, the grid method is outstanding when you have a sub in the classroom. Mm-hmm. So I see this note saying I'm on medical leave, therefore I'm not using the grid method. I would challenge all of us to consider, if you're going on medical leave or you're going on any sort of leave, the grid method might actually be exactly what you should be using to allow your students to be successful. And obviously there's a few different factors you want to consider. I'm going to assume for the right reasons, this teacher has chosen not to use it while she's in medical leave, but something to consider.
Well, that's a confusing part to me because if they're not the same students, then I'm not sure what the medical leave and her not running has to do with the actual problem.
I don't think it does. I think she was just trying to establish that she's a grid method teacher.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh,
in a traditional way.
But I normally use it. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. That was more of a sidebar. I'm not using it right now because I'm on medical leave, but I normally use the grid method, and this is happening. Gotcha. So the first thing that comes to mind to me is why does that teacher feel that this is a threat to students? And that would be the biggest piece of figuring that out. Hey, why? Rather than begging her not to say or use it, or him or her, I can't remember, of not to use it as a threat in a negative way like that, find out why do they even think it is? Because to me, I'm I don't know any reason why they would consider it a threat outside of the fact that the students actually have to learn and grow, and therefore it's challenging versus my current classroom that's easy for them. That's the only thing I can think of, unless I have a misunderstanding of what it is, and I don't realize that it's you know what I mean? There's no other reason, why else is it a threat? That's literally the threat of
I'm not gonna make this easy for you.
If you kids don't act up, I'm gonna make you actually learn.
Yes, that's exactly
I don't know what
it is. Yeah.
So that would be the question of what does this person actually think the grid method is, and why did he or she think that throwing a grid at you is a negative thing if it's not that? I would give them the benefit of the doubt that it's not that, and maybe they're just misunderstanding what the grid actually is, because there's a chance that in their mind they're just thinking and they're equating it to just more work. Because they don't understand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because and I understand that's wrong, but the question, the thought of well, okay, so then maybe it's just some education around what this method actually is, so that this other teacher can actually understand it, versus assuming it's them problem, if that makes sense, right? Maybe it's an education of problem for them. And also, why would the kids find it as do the kids have to understand it incorrectly as well if they think it's a threat?
Right.
This is a very confusing thing, but I think really we need more context of the conversation of why this is occurring.
I think the first step,
you know what I mean? I don't know.
The first step is definitely going to the teacher and trying to better understand what their misunderstanding is with the grid. I totally agree, because there's so many different educational tools that we have at teachbetter.com and in the academy that if there's a misunderstanding, you should be able to solve it. It also, in addition to reaching out to us, we would love to, help confirm anything forever. The other element, which I think is interesting, is, I don't know if I'm opening a can of worms, Jeff, so I'm super sorry about this, but we find this a lot with standard-based grading. We saw this a little bit with the grid method. As educators, we use educational jargon so that we all stay in up to date in conversations. We call this mastery learning framework the grid method. We call this more progressive style of grading standard-based grading. But more often than not, we don't go to our students and lay out our teaching philosophy or the instructional practices we intend to use unless they're different than what has previously been presented in your classroom. So for example, there isn't a teacher on the planet that at the beginning of the year is sending a letter home saying, hey guys, I just wanted you to know I'm a really progressive teacher. So you're going to see a variety of things in my classroom that includes mini lessons, practice with the information, and formative assessments. Because that style is so common. Like the workshop model of teaching is so common. And even though the parents don't know any different, as a teacher, we believe that that's how a classroom traditionally looks. Yet when we go into a new practice, like using a mastery framework or a new practice of grading, we feel the need to announce that to students and parents. And I think that that creates fear. I don't know. I don't know the positive of it. It does. I don't know that going to a class and saying this is what this type of teaching is called is actually beneficial to the students at all. Like you should be using the most progressive instructional practices you can. And I don't know that the students having a title or a name associated with it needs to occur. We remember, Jeff, we used to have a letter that we sent home at the beginning of the year for grid method teachers explaining what the grid method was to parents. And later on, we kind of had this reflection of, it's not that you can't do that, but it really does sound like your kids are guinea pigs. And that's not true. There's so much data and research behind this instructional practice. And a lot of it is what you already find in a classroom. It just feels and looks a little bit different. So we decided to not necessarily make that suggestion anymore because like the parents don't know any different. The kids don't know any different. This is us putting our like teacher caps on in some regard. So I guess, anyway, my roundabout way of saying this with a multiple perspectives, and I agree with your first suggestion, but I think the other thing is to consider introducing dynamic ways of teaching doesn't always need to come with the title. And if you feel like the grid method as a title has a negative connotation somewhere because a teacher did something wrong or whatever, then don't title it that way and just call it how you teach. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I agree with all that. And I think the communication only needs to happen when things are going to be different than what they might have already been used to so that they don't fear it. But as far as like she specifically said that they're saying they're throwing grids at you. So like that's not even talking about the method or anything like that. That's literally talking about the grid, the specific thing. So either these kids have already had the grid method, like grids in another class, and they're able to use a negative connotation to it, or this teacher has specifically said, hey, guess what? Next year, you're going to get these things called grids. And this is why they're bad and terrible. So now I'm going to use that as a, you know what I mean? Like I'm going like literally, well, you better watch out because when you get to Miss Hughard's class, it's not so easy. You are lucky to have me this year because Miss Hughart uses these things called the grids. Like that's like the only scenario I can come up with. And not that that person is necessarily being malicious because they might just truly misunderstand it. But like, I don't know.
The reality is we need to talk to our colleagues to confirm understanding. And if you're ever nervous about something that you're doing in your classroom and having to admit to it or explain it to the outside out of your classroom, it can just be how you teach. You can put different titles, different language if you feel like that needs to happen.
This is what we do in this classroom.
Yeah, this is like, I never necessarily was like, I use the grid method. I was like, this is how my classroom operates and here's why. And I know it's good. And I can explain why. This is the learning pathway. Yeah, like I can pull the research for you. It, Chad Ostrowski is not going to be upset if you don't give him credit.
Oh, I don't know. He's pretty sensitive.
I mean, he like practically walks around in a crown all day, so I think he'll be just fine.
It's weird. He bought the crown himself. Like that's the weird part.
That's what I'm saying.
It's one of those.
Did we used to call him?
It's one of those Burger King crowns.
Yeah,
so it's not really.
Did we used to call him like the grid Yoda? Wasn't there? What were the things that we used to call him?
No, I don't think.
Yeah, Yoda for sure was a thing. It wasn't like King of the Grid. It was like.
I don't think I've ever called him Yoda. Maybe you did. I've never called him Yoda. Most of what I've called Chad for most of our relationship, I can't say on air. So we'll just say Chad.
But you know what I'm talking about. Chad used to be called like
Gridmaster. We used Gridmaster. Yoda. I don't think Yoda. I mean, he would be.
Can someone in the comments? I know we used to call him Yoda, but it was before
I'd love to see comments about remember what Ray and I aren't remembering. That'd be great. But then also like, what should we call Chad? That'd be good too. I don't know what else.
Boss man.
Well, boss man, that happens. Yeah, that's
guy who shows up to meetings only half the time.
I don't know. Grid guru. We ever call him that?
Grid guru. That's cute.
That sounds like a fun.
Yeah, think of a cute nickname that we can make fun of Chad in our next meeting.
I almost said some of the things that I call him. I'm like, whoa, can't say that right now. So I'll pull back.
Maybe
I don't have a bleep button.
You can bleep, but you'll like type them in the comments to people with like asterisks. It'll be fun.
It'll just be asterisks.
All right, friends. We hope you have an amazing day. Jeff and I will be back on the show together, hopefully sometime soon. So we'll see you around the river bend. We'll see you sometime soon. I feel like that was a Pocahontas joke. Bye, guys. Hey, Teach Better community. Thank you so much for joining the Teach Better Today morning show every single weekday at 7 a.m. Eastern. We have so many resources for you outside of this live stream at teachbetter.com, including blogs, podcasts, and professional development that will bring our team to your school. Wherever you are listening from this morning, please make sure you are sharing and celebrating the incredible educators in this world. And hey, if you are listening over on a podcast to Teach Better Talk, we would love a 5-star review. The comments are always so entertaining. We'll see you tomorrow.